Wow, I was not expecting this thing to work this well in a combat scenario. This is great.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another ship build tutorial that will be going over the Dendem Marathon. I designed this ship with the thought in mind that Starfield at times requires quite a bit of cargo space, especially to do some of the missions in the game. After finishing the design of the ship, I actually found it's surprisingly a pretty good all-arounder. Not only can it explore and haul a ton of cargo, but it actually holds up pretty well in some combat situations. Although it is an all-rounder, it's definitely meant to be a cargo ship, functioning as the cargo runner for whatever arsenal of ships you might have. Once again, this ship is designed in the A class, but it could be upgraded if you have the piloting skill for it. This ship does use some workarounds to go for a specific aesthetic, but because of comments in my previous videos, I made sure it has no exploits in terms of functionality, so you won't have to worry about doing exploits in order for it to function as well as it does. If you're trying to avoid workarounds altogether, I'll be showing two versions of the ship, one that uses the workarounds and then the one that doesn't, so you can decide which one you might want to use. Now this ship build is going to work on a little bit of a different format, so we're just going to hop straight into the ship parts. All of the parts in this video come from the two star yards that I've been using in my previous videos, Deimos Star Yard as well as Aquila City. This time almost every part in this video comes from Deimos Star Yard, so there's only a few pieces you'll need that actually come from Aquila City. The rest can be found at both. That being said, if you don't have access to every single part in this list, or you really just want to use something else, that's completely fine. In fact, I completely encourage it. I'm purely making this video just out of inspiration to give you guys something you might like, so if you want to change it to a way that you might like it even more, that's way better for me. The ship's stats could change pretty readily, considering the ship is entirely modular. The cargo could jump up significantly and your mobility could drop drastically, or if you don't need that much cargo, you could reduce the amount of cargo it carries and increase the mobility and make it more of an all-arounder. These clips are of me doing some bounty hunting in the background though, so it can be used for different things, and it is with the current setup, so it surprisingly does function pretty well and can be used to fight. This was a 3v1 situation and it actually worked out perfectly fine. Before getting to the rest of the build, I'm going to show the alternate look, and if you choose to not use workarounds, this is what it's going to look like. It will look a little different, but the same idea is there. I personally prefer the way that I designed it, and that's why I'm going to do a more in-depth version of that explanation, but if you don't want the workarounds, you can live without them. The first difference is that I have these wings placed inside the neck of the ship, which literally only gives it a visual of having a light. The second place is having wings on the landing gear to make it look like the entire landing gear is connected rather than having it sort of afloat on the bottom of the ship. The last one is removing the spines on the middle layer of the ship, which just gives it a more enclosed type of look, makes it look more boxed and mainstream. Getting rid of them doesn't change it a whole lot, but it does leave a tiny gap. So if you'd like to design it without the workarounds, it's definitely doable, and it doesn't change the overall look of the ship, but I will be going in depth of how to do each of those workarounds in the video. All of the parts are pretty easy to snap together, and even within the layers you can break them off into their own little segments. Each of the modules have pretty easy lock points, so it makes trying to put the ship together a lot easier to follow along, especially when you're going through the videos. Earlier in the video I did mention modularity, or that the ship is modular, and what I mean by that is that there are a bunch of components, specifically the Deimos hulls, that can all be swapped out for more cargo if you needed it. So with the current capacity being relatively high, if you needed a much larger cargo vessel, you could easily swap out 3 to 4 of the Deimos hulls and increase the capacity significantly. Doing that would significantly diminish the ship's ability to rotate and to be able to do combat, but if you just needed a hauler as a part of your arsenal, it's very easy to do that and make this ship be your all-around hauler. As you finish following along with the parts, I'm going to go over the few workarounds and how to do them, specifically putting them into the layers so that you can just stack the layers on top of each other to make shipbuilding much faster. After you've made sure the parts are placed down, you can now move them onto the lock joint, and literally all you have to do is flip them on the lock joint a couple times and then cancel whatever your selection is and it will lock it onto the joint. It's the exact same process for all of the pieces that go on the ship, and you can actually do it with multiple pieces selected, assuming they're all facing the same way. Once each of the layers are done, it's as simple as just stacking them on top of one another. Each of the layers have different segments that actually make it way easier to lock it on, especially if you select each segment individually. The top ones specifically being the most different, but there's an easy way to work around with that. Using that workaround mechanic that I was talking about earlier, you can just go piece by piece and lock it on, or if you don't like the lining or the spines, you can just take them off, whatever works best for you. I'm honestly pretty proud of how the interior ended up working out. It's all basically in one layer, and the connections for the companionway go straight up and straight in the same spot. Now, I did choose some habitats that basically do nothing. Obviously, I chose a brig, but with the immersion perspective and just the way that they flow from one habitat to the other, I think it worked out pretty great. You have a workshop directly to the side of the main crew quarters, as well as when you go through it, you have the brig in the back, as well as the armory that's attached to the brig. Keep in mind that these are all preference, so if you want to change them to whatever you like, please feel free. There's also a couple Deimos holes in the middle layer that you can switch out to whatever you want. It will mess with the pathing though, so keep that in mind. Okay, we touched on a lot in this video, and I tried out a lot of new editing techniques and all sorts of things, as well as a completely different format for this tutorial, so please let me know what you think about it. I've changed an absolute ton of what I do in these videos based on what everybody says in the comments section, so I'm still trying to change some more things, but hopefully everyone can see the amount of effort that I put into these videos. If you did enjoy the video, please feel free to like and share the video, or even just comment things, whether you like the ship or something you might have changed yourself, and all in all, feel free to subscribe. It really gets me motivated to keep making more content. That's all I have for you, so I hope everybody takes care, and I'll see you all next time.